Bye.
We begin tonight with our chief intelligence correspondent, Catherine Herridge, live in Washington. Catherine?
Well, thank you, Megan. Tonight, ISIS social media accounts are lighting up and celebrating the attack in Munich, the same way they did a week ago when an ISIS supporter mowed down 84 people with his truck in Nice, France. To be clear, there has been no claim of responsibility for the shooting in Munich by any terror group, and German authorities say the motive is unclear. Within the last hour, confirmation at a press conference in Germany that the suspect is 18 years old, holds German and Iranian citizenship, and that a man found dead near the scene killed himself and is probably the sole shooter in the attack. Earlier, police said they were searching for up to 3 suspects based on eyewitness accounts. But after a review of security camera video and interviews, the German police have concluded that 2 others who fled the scene had nothing to do with the incident. Meantime, the Department of Justice here in Washington is offering investigators support and assistance, and earlier today, the Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson told Fox he is receiving regular updates on Munich.
It highlights that we all have to be vigilant in Homeland Security, in law enforcement, really worldwide, and especially in this country with the national political conventions this week and next week.
A terrorism analyst is also drawing our attention tonight to the reported targeting of children at that McDonald's in Munich and also in Nice, France, emphasizing that both al-Qaeda and ISIS have advocated this type of attack because murdering children leaves the deepest scar in every community. Megan.
Oh, God. Catherine, thank you.
You're welcome.
Today's shooting spree is the 3rd attack in Europe in just the last 8 days. Joining me now to discuss it, Maajid Nawaz in London. He's a former Islamic extremist and author of Radical: My Journey Out of Islamist Extremism. And Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer in Washington. He's a CIA-trained former senior intelligence officer. Great to see you both. So we don't know what this is yet. I mean, the latest facts that came out at the presser would seem to push us away from Islamic extremism, and yet the eyewitness says he was yelling Allahu Akbar. Let me start with you, Lieutenant Colonel Shaffer, on what you make of the conflicting facts we've just heard.
Well, look, the pattern matches that which ISIS is putting forward, as Catherine Herridge just said. The attacking of children is something of a priority for these folks right now. So we have to look at that as a factor that we have to consider. With that said, we do recognize that people can just go bonkers and do really bad things. But Megan, look, this guy got a weapon, an assault weapon, in a place which you do not get assault weapons easily. And he did clearly, I believe, he did say Allah Akbar, and there was some issue. We have to recognize this guy was an immigrant. One of the issues that Germany is dealing with right now is the fact that they have had this unmitigated flurry of refugees coming in, and what has not been reported here in the United States is the GSG-9, which is their version of Delta meets the FBI, the anti-terrorism unit created after the '72 Olympic attack by the Palestinians. GSG-9 has been raiding mosques and finding weapons caches, and they've been finding evidence of explosives such as Simtex. So this is no small issue with the Germans right now. They're looking at this very seriously because of the issue of immigrants.
Maajid, what is the argument that, what about this suggests to you it's not Islamic terror?
It has all the hallmarks, I can see that. There are 3 areas that make me pause just for thought until more information is available, Megan. I'm not going to say it's definitely not jihadism. I'm going to say that these 3 points here that I'm about to mention do and should make us just pause for a second and consider. The first is that in jihadist theory, something I'm particularly acquainted with, they distinguish between suicide in the sense of somebody turning their weapon on their own body to kill it, and suicide bombing in the sense of turning a body into a weapon to kill others. And if the Munich police reports are correct, that this young man ended up killing himself, that would be something that would be highly unusual for jihadists to do. The suicide bombing method is usually when you try and kill others by using your own body as a weapon. So that's something that makes me think a minute and think, hold on, maybe there's something strange going on in this case if he did indeed end up killing himself. The second is his Iranian origins. Now, most Iranian are Shia, and that happens to be the wrong sect for ISIS. In fact, ISIS and ISIS-inspired terrorists are killing Shia across the world, and especially in Iraq. They believe them to be infidels. So that also gives me slight pause for thought. And the third is his age. The highest killer of young men in Europe, in Britain, sorry, at the moment, is suicide. And so I'm just wondering here, now I've got to say it's not unprecedented. It happened in Australia at the Lindt chocolate attack, where a guy that did have Iranian origins converted to Sunni jihadism. I was in fact in prison in Egypt for 5 years with somebody who converted to Sunni Islamism from having an Iranian background. So that can happen too. So again, there's another possibility. But if this man didn't convert to Sunni jihadism and remain Shia, it does lessen the chances that this was ISIS inspired again. So we've just got to think about those things.
Though, that
and I'd suggest perhaps getting more information.
Yeah, we need more information. The other thing that we heard is that he was ranting and raving like a madman. He was speaking against the Turks because there's a rivalry between the Germans and the Turks who are in Germany, and you know, he seemed very disturbed. And so, you know, some experts are saying this seems clear. It's not terrorism as we understand that term, but perhaps just a madman who decided to shoot and kill a bunch of people.
And if it's true he was shouting from the rooftop, I am German, I'm born and raised, or something of that, resembling that.
Stand by, Majid.
Again,
sorry, that's for Colonel Schaefer.
Of European born and raised Muslims is that they wouldn't necessarily say that. They wouldn't necessarily say I'm
Sorry,
German.
we're having satellite problems. Go ahead, Colonel. Go ahead.
Well, no, I think you have to consider all possibilities in this case, and this was by definition an act of terror. I mean, this terrorized the public, and it met with the requirements, the targeting requirements of ISIS and Al-Qaeda. So with that said, we have to take it very seriously. You can still be, they are not mutually exclusive, Megan. You can be crazy and be a terrorist. Zawahiri, the guy, the 19th hijacker, was not mentally stable, and I think that's one of the reasons he was pushed out of the operation for the 9/11 attacks. With that said, this guy could have been a wannabe. He got enough access to actually arm himself up and do something severe as he did. But I think we just don't know enough at this point about what his motivation was. The fact is he basically may have been a mimic of an ISIS attack. It may be that simple.
We're just trying to watch the clues in our prayers to our friends in Germany tonight. Thank you both so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Less than 24 hours before this latest attack, millions of Americans were listening to Donald Trump's plan for keeping America safe. And Bill Bennett is here next to explain why he thinks this could be a key issue in this presidential race. Plus, President Obama and Hillary Clinton today ripped the Trump speech as dark and divisive. Governor Mike Huckabee and Robert Zimmerman are next to debate on that. And then it is opening night for the documentary that claims to unveil the secret past of the Democratic Party. And filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza is here to defend what could be his most controversial work yet.
The Clintons are worthy successors of a tradition from Andrew Jackson through Woodrow Wilson. Are we not done with this larcenous duo? How much these partners in crime have already stolen from us.
Breaking tonight, not long after news broke of this new attack in Munich, Germany, Donald Trump was on Twitter offering prayers for the residents there. And just last night, Mr. Trump used his closing speech at the Republican National Convention to talk at length about keeping Americans safe here. He called for better intelligence gathering, tougher foreign policy, and a crackdown on immigration from any nation compromised by terror.
My opponent has called for a radical 550% increase in Syrian. Think of this. This is not believable, but this is what's happening. A 550% increase in Syrian refugees. I only want to admit individuals into our country who will support our values and love our people. The most important difference between our plan and that of our opponent is that our plan will put America first.
Joining me now, Bill Bennett, a former education secretary and the host of the Bill Bennett podcast. Bill, great to see you. So what do you make of that? Trump's getting considerable pushback from the left on those statements, and in particular saying that we should suspend immigration from nations where there are terror concerns.
Well, how can it make any sense to increase immigration from a country like Syria? This is a welcome refinement, Megan, of his early announcement about banning.
There's drama there,
this
isn't
country.
Go ahead, Bill. Sorry, you're fading in and out, but we got you now. Keep going.
Okay. This, as I said, a welcome refinement from his earlier statement. This just makes sense. Look, Syria is the focal point. This is where a lot of men, and it's mostly young men, you see, not women and children. James Clapper, the head of Defense Intelligence, has said plainly and bluntly, we do not know how to vet these people. If you do not know how to vet these people, and you know there are a lot of terrorists in Syria, why in God's name would you let them in? I mean, I think you can debate this all day long with liberals.
But they're saying, when he's talking about we're going to suspend immigration from countries where terrorism is an issue, you're talking about France. You know, you're talking about Germany. And we're going to suspend immigration from France into the United States?
No, he said also, unless we can develop a better vetting system. So you have a better vetting system, which we do not have now. And then you do it. But look, let's think of it this way. If a person comes in and wants to become a citizen of the United States, is it unreasonable to ask them, what do you support, the Constitution or Sharia law? Do you believe homosexuals should be put to death? Do you believe women should have the same rights as men? Do you believe in honor killings, or do you believe in equal justice under law? Now, people may fib, they may lie on this, but this is what the vetting's about. For now, he has said a temporary suspension of people from these countries, and he's talking about countries like Syria. We will continue to have people coming in from France, but if you have people from France who came into France from Syria or somewhere in the Middle East that is riven with terrorism, I think you got to make the same check. This just makes sense.
Did you watch the convention, Bill? What did you think of it? How did the Republicans do?
Oh, I think they did well. I mean, I think you saw, first of all, three major assets, I would say, in addition to Mike Pence, who's a great guy, Trump's family, it's just, you know, spectacular, kind of hard to improve on. He's got a lot of pizzazz. I mean, you know, this was watchable. A lot of people watched it. And he's got strength. And most importantly, over U.S. history, what do people want in a commander-in-chief? A commander-in-chief, not necessarily a consoler-in-chief, but a commander-in-chief. And they want strength. And I thought his speech last night was very good. Doesn't matter so much what I think, though, Megan. I'm one of the few PhDs who's been supporting Trump for a while. But what matters is what the American people are thinking. And they gave him, from what I can tell, very good reviews. We'll see. I hope he stays on message.
I got to ask you, we're going to do a report with Chris Direwalt in a moment on Hillary's vice presidential pick, Tim Kaine of Virginia. What do you make of it? How does he change the race, if at all?
Not exciting. Not exciting. I won't yawn. I'm sure other people will. He's okay. I guess he's solid. This is to show the moderate side. I think she's going to get some blowback from the left. Can I brag about one thing for just a second?
What's that? Sure, go for it.
Other than Donald Trump, I think I employed more people who came on that stage and spoke than anyone else I can think of. Paul Ryan was my employee. Paul Ryan was my employee. He was Speaker of the House. Laura Ingraham worked for me in my speechwriting office, and Peter Thiel was my intern. How about that? Huh?
I hope he let you in early on the whole PayPal thing.
Yeah, no kidding. I said to Peter Thiel, how about letting me in on the PayPal or tipping me off about Facebook? He was an early investor. No such luck.
Oh, a lot of thanks you get. Well, Bill, we love you, and thanks for being here.
Thank you. That matters more. Thank you.
Straight ahead, we'll have a Kelly File exclusive from behind the scenes at the RNC as cameras follow Donald Trump Jr. backstage at a critical moment. And Mark McKinnon brings us a front row seat to the drama. Plus, Donald Trump's speech slammed by President Obama and by Hillary Clinton. They say the remarks don't reflect the real America. Governor Mike Huckabee says, not so much. Robert Zimmerman, guess how he feels. They're coming up.
He offered a lot of fear and anger and resentment, but no solutions about anything that he even talked about.
I've been poor my whole life.
Way of life. The first task for our new administration will be to liberate our citizens from the crime and terrorism and lawlessness that threatens our communities. When I take the oath of office next year, I will restore law and order to our country.
And here is how Hillary Clinton and President Obama reacted.
This idea that America is somehow on the verge of collapse, this vision of violence and chaos everywhere, doesn't really jibe with the experience of most people.
I heard about Donald Trump's dark and divisive vision. He offered a lot of fear and anger and resentment, but no solutions about anything that he even talked about.
Joining me now, Clinton supporter and DNC committee member Robert Zimmerman. So, Robert, the president is right that that doesn't really jibe with most Americans' experiences, but he set up a straw man. He does this all the time. Trump wasn't saying that America's falling apart and there's murder everywhere. He was citing stats about increased murder rates and increased killings of cops. That's real.
Well, actually, according to every leading fact-checking organization, they're in fact not real. In fact, the Washington Post fact-checker that you often use on me made the point that upon closer scrutiny, these doomsday statistics fall apart.
Which one specifically? Because I'm looking at them right here. He said homicides last year increased by 17% in America's 50 largest cities. That's true.
Well, excuse me. The Washington Post fact-checker made the point that they have, in fact, declined by more than half since the height in 1991.
This is from Washington Post, that they have increased by 17% in America's 50 largest cities.
Excuse me, Megan. If you read the whole article, they'll point out that since 1991, the statistics have shown that they, in fact, have declined in half. Furthermore, when he makes reference to police officers dying in the line of duty, that's also false.
No, it isn't. The number of police officers killed in the line of duty has risen by almost 50% compared to this point last year, he said. Washington Post. This is true if you use what the Trump... No, let me finish. The WAPO. This is true if you use what the Trump campaign did, July 2014 to July 2015, and compare it to the following year.
And that's why the Washington Post fact-checker says that he's taking statistics out of context, he's manipulating them, and he's just sometimes plain wrong.
He's going back the last 12 months.
Excuse me, Megan. The bigger point here is I've seen third world dictators give more rational, factual speeches than Donald Trump did last night. He's a dangerous neophyte, and the fact that it's not just the Washington Post fact checker, but the Pulitzer Prize fact-checking organization PolitiFact said he was wrong as well. And the real issue here is the reason most leading generals have criticized Donald Trump, as well as leading Republicans in Congress like Mike McCall, is because what he's saying is making us not more safe, is making us in a more dangerous environment.
How is it making us more dangerous?
Because according to Mike McCall, the chairman of Homeland Security in the House, when he advocated his ban of Muslims coming into our country, Chairman McCall said that was a recruiting tool for terrorists. Ray Ardiano made the point that, in fact, his strategy of just dropping bombs in the Middle East was dangerous and was hurting us in the war against ISIS. My point simply is, when you look at the ticket of Hillary Clinton and Tom Kaine running, you see stability and strength versus Donald Trump, who's a dangerous neophyte, and Mike Pence, who as governor actually advocated legislation that would allow businesses not to serve gay and lesbian people, wanted to shut the government down for not funding Planned Parenthood. And then he walked that back under pressure. I got to go because I got another guest coming up. Okay, great to see you, Robert. But it's great to be with you.
Joining me now, Fox News contributor Governor Mike Huckabee. So you heard dangerous neophyte whose policies would endanger us, in particular the Muslim ban, citing Mike McCall and others for that. Governor, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, Robert Zimmerman talks about the Washington Post fact checkers. That's really liberal euphemism for saying that Pravda was once a journalistic giant.
But
I mean, the Washington Post fact checkers
up on the ones we were talking about.
Well, look, here's the problem. The Washington Post fact-checkers will deny their own facts when someone points out to them that it validates some of the arguments that Donald Trump was making. Here's the fact. If you look at the overall murder rate, and let's look at murder rate, it has declined almost in half since 1993. But as you point out, in big cities where liberal policies have prevailed, the murder rate is substantially up. But one of the things that liberals never want to tell you is that while the murder rate has gone down nationally, guess what has doubled since 1993? The number of Americans who own their own personal weaponry. Obama goes around and talks about how Donald Trump was giving gloom and doom. Look, Obama and Hillary, they're not worried about, this kind of violence, not a home invasion. They're not worried about a carjacking. Why? Because everywhere they've traveled, and Hillary for almost 40 years, they're surrounded by people who were armed to the teeth. who have rocket launchers and all sorts of
What about
weaponry.
Hillary's point? President Obama's point was a straw man. You know, he does that a lot. But her point that she didn't really hear any solutions other than I'm going to be the law and order candidate, which is a nice tagline. Is that a fair criticism?
No, because Donald Trump did offer solutions. He's going to show respect for the law enforcement officers so they don't wear targets on their back. He's going to stand with them rather than invite all the people who have shot them to go to the platform of the Democratic convention. I mean, what Hillary is advocating is just nonsense. So I think the contrast, I mean, Republicans are very happy to present to the American people. You want to stand with the cops or you want to stand with the crooks? That's your choice. And, you know, I mean, Hillary is going to go into Philadelphia next week. I think she's going to have a very different answer for this. But it was interesting that while Obama was sort of sniffing at the idea that we're living in a dangerous world, it wasn't an hour later that shots were ringing out in Munich, yet another city. And it made him look completely out of touch with reality.
Just for the record, Hillary's not having, to my knowledge, anybody who tried to actually shoot a cop speak at the DNC.
She's having,
but she's having the mother of Michael Brown, who Eric Holder's DOJ did find, tried to take a cop's gun and shoot him. Great to see you, Governor.
Exactly.
Great to see you.
Good to see you, Meg.
Nominee Hillary Clinton has announced her running mate, Virginia Senator, former Virginia governor. It gets confusing. He's a very well-accomplished man. Tim Kaine. Chris Steyerwalt is our digital politics editor. He's live in Philadelphia already, where the Democrats are going to be holding their convention next week. And the Democrats are excited. Well, I don't know. Are they? Are they excited?
Well, and by the way, Senator Governor Kaine was also, I believe, the former mayor of Richmond. He also speaks Spanish and Espanol.
He's irritating. I don't like people who overachieve to that extent. They intimidate me.
It's exactly. I like to keep my resume nice and thin so that it all fits on one page. Basically, Donald Trump gave Hillary Clinton permission to be as boring as she wants to be, which is pretty boring. If Mike Pence is, as I said before, if Mike Pence is a mayonnaise sandwich, Tim Kaine is a mayonnaise sandwich on whole wheat bread. This is her saying, oh, great, okay, so you've chosen a very, very conventional running mate who is not going to fire anybody up and is going to secure you with the base. Hillary Clinton has made an equally unexciting choice, but one that reaches out in a different direction and tells you about her point of view of the election.
Is it that she's having trouble with white men, so she chose a white man, and that's going to make white men want to vote for her?
White men are the worst. They're just everywhere. You don't have to worry about us too much. No, the reality for Hillary Clinton is he is a more centrist, more moderate Democrat. She is reinforcing her prior brand before she reinvented herself as a Bernie bro. She's going back to the old thing. He's from a swing state. He is. So
she's saying, "Hey, you disaffected Republicans. Here I am. Look at who I picked. I didn't go with Elizabeth Warren. This guy you might like."
I think that's part of it. And I think the other part of it is she has returned to normalcy as tapioca, bland as she possibly can be. Just saying, I am here. Donald Trump's unacceptable. You may not like me, but I am not going to cause any real problems. I'm going to be sort of steady and stable over here.
I don't know why you rip on tapioca all the time. Nana,
I like tapioca.
Who is 100 years old. She loves tapioca. That was one of the highlights of going to visit her. Right, thank you. She loves the tapioca. Why do you always rip it like that?
I'm pro tapioca. I stand here as a person who likes uninteresting things. But I'm just saying,
you
for
only
Hillary
like
Clinton,
tapioca if it has some bacon bits in it. That's it. Otherwise, forget it.
Then I would do it.
Steyerwalt, we'll see you in Philly.
See you soon.
Well, with Hillary Clinton just days away now from accepting her party's nomination, Dinesh D'Souza premieres a new film this weekend called Hillary's America.
For blacks,
Hillary's America. And just ahead, he will take on the growing backlash that's already arising from the film's critics. Plus, we'll take you behind the scenes for one of the most dramatic moments of the 2016 Republican National Convention, when Mark McKinnon, one of our favorites, joins us next with some exclusive footage.
How are you? Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I've become a little bit of a student of your public persona. You seem a little shaky, a little emotional.
You know what? I actually was. That doesn't happen often. And
even time the whole campaign until now?
No, it very rarely happens with us.
Developing tonight, just 24 hours after Donald Trump became the leader of the Republican Party, and we are seeing new video of what went on behind the scenes at the RNC. The Showtime series The Circus had cameras rolling when Donald Trump Jr. had the honor of announcing the vote of the New York delegation, securing his father's nomination. Watch this.
New York, the Empire State, proud to be the home of Donald J. Trump. And we are proud that we have as one of our delegates, Donald J. Trump Jr.
I have the incredible honor to be able to throw Donald Trump over the top in the delegate count tonight with 89 delegates. Congratulations, Dad. We love you.
Great job.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Home of the first. Congratulations.
Great job. Thank you, guys.
John, what was it like, man?
Say, other than maybe the birth of my children, it was the coolest thing I've ever done. I mean, it's surreal, totally intense.
Congratulations, sir. Thank you.
Don. There you go.
There you go. Why you go on the run? Why you going here? Why you going on the run?
Hold on. Hey, how are you? Yeah, no, this is all.
Guys, can you give us 2 minutes?
So,
now they can't say anymore.
the stop Trump movement is pretty much dead.
This convention is totally the Trump convention. You saw it on the floor there. There were a number of delegations where Cruz won the delegates, and they were happily casting votes for Trump.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I've become a little bit of a student of your public persona. You seem a little shaky, a little emotional.
You know what? I actually was. That doesn't happen often. And
even time the whole campaign until now?
No, it very rarely happens with us with that.
So 7 things happened yesterday that were flaps, controversies, including your stepmother's speech. Are you all like?
Honestly,
are you
no.
blocking it out?
It's not even anything to block out. Whatever happened. I think more importantly than anything, I mean, she got out on that stage in front of all of those people and delivered an awesome message. I mean, for me, it's not even about the words and whatever it may be. I mean, that's almost, everyone delivers words. Everyone can have someone write something for them and they can read it, but she actually cognizantly tries to avoid that stuff. It's not her thing. She wants to be a mom. She wants to take care of her son. So to get out there and put herself in that, I mean, I was more concerned about the delivery, the fact that she did that in such a good way. I was actually really impressed. I mean, that's what I took from the whole thing.
Congratulations. Good luck.
Thanks, man. Thanks, man.
Appreciate it.
Be well. Thank you.
Let's go.
He's fine.
Just trying to get rid of Mark. See, now that I'm big time, Mark, I'm not too good for cable now. Yeah. Premium cable. Premium cable. Good
job.
Thank you, guys.
What's he got against cable? What's the matter with cable? Mark McKinnon is the former chief media advisor to President George W. Bush and co-creator of The Circus.
Premium cable.
There we go. And as you can see, Mark had a front row seat to all the convention drama. Look at it. I love how you dress the part. So that was an exciting moment to be with the Trump family and with Donald Jr. in particular.
It was an exciting moment. It was a unique moment. It was a human moment. These are the kind of things we try and capture on The Circus. These, the human drama, to show what happens off the stage, and you don't see a lot of emotional stuff with the Trumps. They're usually pretty cool customers, and Donald, I was with him in Elko when he gave his first speech back during the primary, and it's been really fun to just kind of watch his evolution. He's a big talent.
Don Jr.
Don Jr. He's a big talent, but this moment you could see he got really pumped up and kind of excited, and kind of amped up.
Yep.
But to be there and do that for his father, that was a family thing. That wasn't just politics. That was where you kind of see the sort of thing that you would with your family, or I would, to have this moment that they worked for so hard, and he got to put him over the top, and then go call his dad and say, "Hey, Dad, we did it."
Do you know what his dad said to him on the phone?
Donald Jr. said, "Thanks. We did this together. This is a great moment."
Aw. What did you think of the RNC this week? How'd they do?
Well, the important point that we always say is that the thing that really matters is the last night's speech, and there was a lot of drama. I was with you on the set on your set when the Ted Cruz moment happened, which is the most dramatic thing I've ever seen in all the conventions I've been going to since '88. I mean, that was wild, and I think we're still trying to figure out where all the shrapnel hit on that one. But again, that all kind of got wiped away. The plagiarism thing got wiped away by the speech on Thursday night, because he stood and he delivered. And just from a sort of, the advisor guy that I used to be, looking at that, here's my takeaway. The bottom line is you want people to walk away from a speech like that clear on what the message was, and in that case, that's 100% A+. I mean, there's no confusion about what Donald Trump's message was that night. I'm going to make you safer, crime and punishment. We're living in dangerous times, and I'm going to do something about it. And that was like a whole hour of his speech. Often these speeches are kind of alphabet soup. It was clear what he was saying. It was not a soaring, poetic speech. That was blunt force prose. Yeah. It was not a Peggy Noonan, Mike Gerson speech, but he was clear what the message was, and he's tapping into all the solo election. He's been tapping into a psyche, and there's a lot of people.
But I want to ask you that. So points on the message, and points on strength, and points on being, Trump. But then, why did he do this morning? This is what his. So he got back on the Ted Cruz thing. You know how he said Ted Cruz's dad
back on the National Enquirer and the JFK
killed
assassination.
JFK or helped. I don't know what he. Something bad. Watch.
All I did is point out the fact that on the cover of the National Enquirer there was a picture of him and crazy Lee Harvey Oswald having breakfast. Now, Ted never denied that it was his father. There was a picture on the front page of the National Enquirer, which does have credibility.
Why is he talking about that? Why isn't he talking about his speech?
He's not going to stay on the leash. He is not going to ever stay on the leash. And that's what makes him fascinating and entertaining, and that's why people keep tuning in, because they know that it's never going to be predictable, ever.
But does that take the air out of some of the sales? We should spend 1 minute talking about that instead of law and order and immigration and...
Yeah, I mean, that's just not conventional by any standard. It's not what any candidate has ever done, but he did the same thing and won all the primaries.
It's
so
true, and it's more interesting.
That's why we keep watching. It's like watching a car wreck.
It's more interesting to talk about.
It's like watching Indianapolis 500.
Or just a high-speed car chase.
Yeah, we watch it to see the crash.
Great to see you, Mark McKinnon. Dinesh D'Souza and his new documentary. Next. Well, filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza became a nationally known name with the release of his documentary, Obama's America, back in 2012. And now the conservative filmmaker is at it again. His film, Hillary's America, premieres on 1,300 screens this weekend. And here's a sneak peek.
Democrats today claim to be the party of progress. But where's the progress? For blacks, they've created new urban plantations. For Indians, reservations. And for poor immigrants, barrios, ghettos, and slums. They put their voters in there and make sure they stay there. The only progress we see is progress for them. More wealth, more power, more control over America and over our lives. The Clintons are worthy successors of a tradition from Andrew Jackson through Woodrow Wilson. Are we not done with this larcenous duo? How much these partners in crime have already stolen from us? How much more will we let them take?
Some candidates in this race are resorting to ugly, hateful rhetoric.
Hateful rhetoric? The Clintons are hateful people with a hateful history. Imagine how much worse things could get if these two depraved crooks return to the White House.
Hillary's America, in theaters now.
So you're saying you're a maybe. Joining me now, filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza and Nomiki Konst, who's a Bernie Sanders supporter and host of The Filter. Great to see you both. Dinesh!
Nice to see you.
Whew! Wow. Larcenous duo. I don't know where to begin. And your point is?
Well, my point is that people need some vaccination or inoculation against the propaganda viruses that are going to be unleashed at the Democratic Convention next week. We're going to be hearing how the Democratic Party is the party of the little guy, of minorities, of Latinos, of immigrants, how the Democrats have fought for civil rights and human rights. And what we do in this movie is we blow the lid off that, and we show the Democratic Party has actually been the party of exploitation, subjugation, theft, and murder. And we do it based upon facts that really can't be denied, which was the party of slavery, of segregation, of forced sterilization, of Jim Crow, of the Ku Klux Klan. This is the Democratic Party, and the subjugation and exploitation continues today. That's probably the punchline of the movie, that this is not a thing of the past, but many of the ugliest features of history continue to haunt the Democratic Party now.
Nomiki?
This movie is no Citizen Kane. It's a parody of a parody of a parody of a conspiracy theory movie. Listen, I wish the Democratic Party was that powerful. But the reality is that the Republican Party has the House, they have the Senate, they have every single state pretty much controlled in the legislatures. And listen, if Hillary Clinton was so powerful, this is a woman who had 2 super PACs, had 470 super delegates stacked up a year before she was running for office. She had Debbie Wasserman Schultz running the DNC, her former chair. She had more money than God. And yet this socialist from Vermont was able to get 46% of the vote in pretty close primaries. So if she were that powerful, I mean, listen, I'm not the biggest Hillary Clinton supporter, but she's not as powerful as you think she is, and I'm sure you're making a lot of money off this movie. It's a good time to be in electoral politics for documentary filmmaking.
Well, of course, it did come out today that not only did she have a lot of power, but she had some friends at high places, because these leaked DNC emails reveal that the Democratic National Committee was putting its thumb on the scale for her over Bernie Sanders, talking about how they were going to plan a narrative that his campaign was a mess. One comment that doesn't mention him, but talks about questioning a candidate's religion. Does he believe in God, or is he an atheist? My Southern Baptist peeps would draw a big difference between a Jew and an atheist. I mean, this is dicey stuff.
Megan, I think the issue, Megan, is not whether Hillary Clinton is powerful individually or as a person, but rather that Hillary is head of a gang, the progressive gang, the Democratic Party gang, and these are guys who are very powerful. Particularly, they control the inner city neighborhoods, which have been some of the most troubled spots in America. Look at inner city Oakland or Detroit or Chicago. Now, these are places that are kind of urban plantations, and what I mean by that is they resemble the old slave plantations, ramshackle dwellings, a great deal of violence necessary to keep the place under control.
There's no question that we have problems in the inner cities, but Nomiki, Dinesh puts it all on the Dems.
Well, there aren't any Republicans around. Aren't these inner cities run by Democratic mayors, Democratic city officials?
No, and a lot of these inner cities have had privatization processes. Listen, Hillary progressive, I don't know what land you're living in. Hillary Clinton is about as corporate centrist as you could get. She picked Tim Kaine, who basically is the identical version of her as a man. I mean, you can't get any more centrist and appealing to moderate Republicans than Hillary Clinton. I mean, if this were actually something that was rooted in philosophical values of progressives, then maybe you'd have a case. But this doesn't match her policies. I think this is all over the place.
And you can catch Dinesh's movie in theaters with the popcorn this weekend. Just a reminder, live in Philadelphia all next week. Back in a moment.
One network dominated.
So don't forget to tune in next week. The Kelly File will be live in Philly for the Democratic National Convention. You can count on complete coverage of the big speeches and the moments you won't want to miss. Fun starts Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Give us your thoughts at facebook.com/The Kelly File. Good night. Here's Sean.